Lukanyo Mnyanda was appointed editor of the Business Day, effective in May. He joins me in studio now. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. You joined the Business Day 20 years ago, and now you're editing it. Can you give us a sense of how coverage has changed in that period?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I suppose it has changed in some ways it hasn't. It was interesting really to see some of the, at the time, obviously the big story was about transition. You know, we just had the first election, and so we had all debates around issues on transformation, race and skills, and it's interesting to actually come back 20 years later and see we're still debating those issues still. So in a way, nothing much has really changed in that sense.
Okay, except this time you're in the driving seat.
Hopefully.
So that's my second point. I think you're the second black editor at the Business Day after Songezo Zibi. Do you think this is significant in any way, especially in light of these allegations from people who work in the same group, TISO Black Star, that black journalists get treated worse and paid worse than their other colleagues?
I mean, obviously, as you know, this sort of issue predates my arrival. Actually, I first heard of it on Twitter when I think it was Julius Malema who tweeted about it. That was my first time I actually ever heard about this issue. And since then, obviously, I think people did talk about it. I think they had big meetings internally. And this is before I arrived. Obviously, I can't give away too much well, in terms of internal business. I mean, I'm hoping. I mean, my principle is that as a manager, irrespective of where you come from, is to make sure all your people are treated well and valued, irrespective of who they are or where they come from. So it shouldn't really matter my background as such in that sense, because it's your job to make sure you have a happy staff and you make sure everybody's treated fairly and equally, irrespective of where you come from or where they come from.
Okay. Talk to us about the narratives that you think are important that are going to emerge in the Business Day under your editorship.
A similar, I mean, maybe I'll take it broader than Business Day. I mean, I've been away for like the last 10, 13 years or so. And obviously the last 10 years, the story has really been about politics, political economy, government, wrongdoing in government. And I think going forward, I would see that changing. I mean, we're seeing that now already, like, and a lot more stories about, if you look at the stories about Steinhoff and KPMG, or even that racism allegations, like with Mr. Lambetti, like that. You know, those kind of stories, I think, holding business to account and yeah, and covering actually the business of business in a way more, because like so far the story in South Africa has really been about politics and politics impacting on business, and maybe not so much focus on the businesses themselves. You know.
When you say you've been away, you were working in the United Kingdom, you're back here. Can you compare perhaps the style of business news that comes from that side? I know you're working for an international television channel that side, and this side.
I suppose here it's a bit more, actually, like it's hard to say it's different, because I was going to say maybe it's a bit more political here, but then I've just been in the UK where you've had big issues in terms of like, the Brexit vote and like, and you've had the big financial crisis all over Europe. So in some ways, it hasn't really been different. There's been a lot of focus on business and business responsibility to greater society, and the feeling that business had actually gotten away with it. And when you look at the debates around austerity in Europe about how the banks cause the trouble, I mean, the perception that the banks cause the trouble, that they get away with it, and normal people are paying for it in terms of like lower benefits, in terms of unemployment. So in that way, I don't think that's much different. I think, I mean, these are sort of human stories in that sense.
Okay. So an issue that's also quite a universal one is declining newspaper circulation figures in South Africa. Last year, I think in the last quarter, they declined by 1.5% overall and 6% in the last year. So across the board, newspaper circulation is declining. How do you then deal with it and mitigate that as an editor coming in?
I think like it's a global thing as well, as you said. I mean, it's how to respond, and the response maybe is to go a bit more digital and trying to produce a product there that's actually of high quality that people will pay for. I mean, that model of advertising as a source of revenue, I think that's going out of the window. So basically, like newspapers now, we have to make money from our readers rather than from our advertisers. And that also then means creating a product, especially online, because people really are reading online every day. I mean, there was this attitude before. I think online was where you dumped things, whereas now the issue is really about, can you produce this quality throughout the day, so much of it that actually somebody is willing to pay for it.
Thank you very much for your time. Lukanyo Mnyanda, who is the new editor of the Business Day. It's time for a short break. I'll have more business news for you after that. Do stay with us.